The seceding of the states. The presidential election of 1860 was one of the most popular presidential elections of all times. Abraham Lincoln won this election, but he did not win the election from the popular vote. With only 40% of the popular vote, Lincoln did not even have half of the nation on his side. Lincoln won the election because he had the majority of electoral votes. When Lincoln was elected, it caused a panic in the South. Southerners feared that with their new president, they would no longer have a voice in the national government. They believed that the president and Congress were against their interests. As a result, Southern states started to secede from the Union. South Carolina was the first state to secede. 6 more followed. With 7 states successfully seceded from the Union, the Confederate States of America were formed. By the time Lincoln took office in March, the Confederate leaders had already written a constitution and named former Mississippi Senator Jefferson Davis as their president. Taking sides in the war. There were 4 border states in the Civil War. Delaware, Kentucky, Missouri, and Maryland were all border states, which were slave states that did not secede. Delaware supported the Union. Kentucky started out neutral, but it supported the Union after it was attacked by Confederate troops in September of 1861. A majority of people in Maryland and Missouri favored the South. Lincoln saw this as a potential threat, so he sent troops to occupy Missouri. If Maryland seceded, the U.S. capital would be in Confederate territory, so Eastern Maryland was put under martial law. This was a type of rule in which the military is in charge and citizens' rights are suspended. When the war was started, both sides thought that they would be winning. In order to win, the North would have to invade the South. This gave the South the advantage of fighting on their homeland, and they would also be led by some of the most dexterous and determined generals. The North had the advantage of a larger population, which meant more soldiers, more farmland, and more factories. In the North, more than 2/3 of their male population were drafted into the military. In the South, 3/4 of free men served. The North had 3.5 million men, while the South only had 1 million. Both sides had strategies to take over the other. To isolate the South, the North set up a naval blockade, a military action to prevent traffic to and from an area. If the South could not sell cotton to Britain, it would run out of money to fight. The North planned to control the Mississippi River, which would allow them to seize Richmond, Virginia, the Confederate capital. The northern industry boomed because the North contained factories that produced goods that both northern and southern soldiers would need. The more goods produced within the factories, the more money they would receive when they sold the goods. In order to pay for the war, Congress ordered an income tax, which was a tax put on the money that people earned. They also used paper money, which led to inflation. Although inflation affected both the North and South, it affected the South more because they already had trouble providing for themselves. But with inflation, goods became more expensive, which made buying lives necessities more challenging.